Hello, hello, folks. It is now 12:05, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. To be mindful of time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So thankful for folks who have joined us, and for those who have just joined us, please feel free to shout yourself out in the chat box. Let us know where you are joining us from. I see some folks who are joining us from Oakland and Pinole and Sacramento and Vancouver and New York, New York. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. A couple of things before we jump right in. The chat box is here for you all to kind of connect with each other and give shouts and praise and all the things you want to do. And then we also have our Q&A box. And so I want to invite you that as we are having the discussion and going through conversation, please feel free to put any of your questions in the Q&A box. If you put it in the chat box, we might miss it, but the Q&A box will definitely see it. And I'll be sure to get to those questions as we go through. If there are any questions that we don't answer, we will answer them afterwards and we'll send them out to you all so that you get the answers that you are looking for. So again, thank you so much. A brief flow for our webinar is that introduction, and then I'm going to have my business partner Sharon Papo come on screen to introduce herself, and then we'll give you a little bit of a clip from the e-course that we are just really proud about. That's taken us a good chunk of time to build, and we're so excited to finally get to share it with you all. But we'll share a little bit of a clip of that. And then we'll get into our fireside chat, and then we'll do some audience Q&A as well, and then we'll close out. So with that said, I'm going to welcome my awesome business partner, Sharon Papo, to come on screen and introduce herself.
Hello, thank you so much, Cornell, for that wonderful welcome, and just want to deeply appreciate everyone for being here. I know your time is precious and we really appreciate it. A little bit about me: I'm an executive coach, I'm a leadership consultant. I have a business called Indigo Skies Consulting. I'm also a licensed therapist, and I've been doing LGBTQ plus inclusion trainings for over 20 years for law enforcement and healthcare and corporations and nonprofits and religious organizations. And I'm also the former executive director of an LGBTQ plus community center. So really, really excited and delighted to be partnering with you, Cornell, and to bring this into the world.
Awesome. I love that. And just another thing, I did turn on closed captioning. So for any folks who may benefit from closed captioning, please feel free to turn that on. You should see it at the top of the screen. And for those who don't know me, my name is Dr. Cornell Verdeja-Woodson. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the other half of this organization. And we're partnering with Sharon on this particular project. In my full-time role, I am the head of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging and talent development at Pixar Animation Studios here in Emeryville. I've been doing this work for over 10 years. I've done it in higher education, where my career really began. Actually, my career began in 9th to 12th grade English class, where I taught in Atlanta, Georgia, and then transitioned into higher education, and then into tech, and now into the entertainment media space at the moment. So really excited to be here and meet some new people, and saw a lot of familiar names on the screen as well. All right. So we're going to share a bit of a clip with you all that is from one of the modules of the e-learning course, and then we'll come back to you to start our conversation.
Imagine what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes without getting a glimpse into their daily reality. I would like to invite you to do just that. I'm going to walk you through the day in the life of one person who is transgender, or sometimes called trans as shorthand for transgender. While this person's reality is not representative of all trans people, there are some common threads to the trans experience that I will highlight here. For the next few minutes, your name will be Sam. Sam uses he/him pronouns and recently began his transition from female to male. He has never been happier, finally getting to live his true, authentic self. Sam is a mixed-race 24-year-old man with short, curly brown hair, wearing his favorite t-shirt, which reads, "I stand with trans students," and some Levi's jeans and Vans. He has a messenger bag with his laptop in it as he is headed to work, where he is a sales development representative. Sam's day starts by taking the bus right outside his apartment to his office. As he gets on the bus to swipe his bus pass, the bus driver greets him with a, "Good morning, ma'am." Sam heads to the back of the bus, grabs a seat, and tries to brush off the greeting by putting in his AirPods and listening to his favorite playlist. Sam gets to his office where the security guard asks, "Hey, Samantha, did you have a nice weekend?" Sam responds, "It's actually Sam now, and I go by he, him pronouns." The security guard responds, "Oh, I totally forgot. You know, this whole thing is just a little weird to me. Sorry, Sam." Sam takes in a deep breath and continues up the elevator to his office. He arrives after.
All right, just a little bit of a clip of one of the modules, particularly where we focus on various aspects of the one of the aspects of trans experience. We wanted to give you a little bit of that clip so you get a sense of the modules, and now we're going to jump into our discussion. So our first question here, so Sharon, you came to me about 2.5 years ago about this particular project and partnering together. I had been thinking about doing an e-course before, but never really kind of jumped into it. And then you kind of came to me and was like, "Do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah." Let's talk about what inspired us to create this course.
Absolutely. Well, my initial motivation is both personal and professional. So personally, if I think back to 2008 when I was working in a clinic, a healthcare clinic, and on one part of my life, I was so out. I was part of the marriage equality movement, and I got married to my wife on the very first day we legally could in San Francisco. And when Prop 8 came on the ballot in California, I was so out. I looked through my childhood synagogue directory, and I sent postcards and letters to pretty much everybody I knew or had known in my life because they were voting on our civil rights. And so on one level, I was so out. And then I went to work. And in my office at work, I had no pictures of my family. And I I remember one day when seeing a medical assistant who her boyfriend had come, and she went out to give him a hug and a kiss, and he's like, "Hey baby, I brought you lunch." She's like, "Oh, that's so sweet." And it made me happy to see my coworker happy and to get a glimpse into her life. And I also knew I couldn't do that. I I couldn't kiss my wife in the middle of the entryway, and I don't know what would have happened if I did, but I knew that I couldn't, and it felt repercussions. And I also knew that as we were talking about Prop 8, I knew that people in my office were voting yes on it, which was to have marriage between a man and a woman. And so I felt that even though I was so out in part of my life, when I walked in the door at work, I was leaving part of myself. And that impacted me. It impacted my work, that sort of covering, that hiding. And even if people knew that I was married to a woman, I didn't feel I could really talk about it. And I didn't ever want to do that again. And so that and many other experiences in the work where I felt I had a cost by not being fully myself. And then I went to run an LGBT center. And when I did that, I had so many conversations with people, sort of advising them how to navigate workplaces where they were struggling because of their sexuality or their gender. And so I just felt, wow, what if we had more really excellent, high quality tools that people could use to positively create inclusive LGBTQ plus cultures. And I reached out to you because you're so fabulous, and I wanted to make sure that
I
moved
tried.
away, that we had a chance to stay connected. So it was just really, really so fun to work with you on this project, and you brought so much incredible wisdom, and it was so awesome.
It's been a long journey. I think we looked at me like 2.5 years. Yeah, I think for me, what inspired, I think college, I came out and came out everywhere I ever came, right? Everywhere I was. It just was never a thing for me. I was always like, this is who I am. I'm here. I'm queer, right? And but I recognized that not everyone else had that experience. And even in my own experiences, there were awkward conversations, awkward questions, and, things that people would say and do that would make the workplace really weird for me. And so for me, it was really about, the inspiration was creating an opportunity to have a dialogue about these things that often don't happen. So as someone who does DEI for a living, LGBTQ and trans identity issues aren't things that are at the forefront of conversations around DEI in the workplace. And to me, this was an opportunity to say, hey, here's another dimension of diversity that we need to think about, and not just from a pure numbers perspective of how many LGBTQ people and trans people do we have, but also the experience that they have and their ability to move up in the organization and the ability for psychological safety. And, this is a pathway and a step one to getting to that reality for me. And so when you said, let's do this, I was like, yeah, let's do this. So I was really excited about that.
Awesome. So when you said yes to creating this course, who was in mind to create this course for?
Yeah, I think because of my role, I'm always supporting people leaders, folks who, have a team that reports into them. And I'm always thinking about how, oftentimes some of the reasons why people tend to leave organizations is that experience at the team level. And, I think that it is really important that we equip our people leaders with the knowledge and the skills that they need in order to create team level psychological safety and belonging. So when we were building this, I was thinking about that people leader who was like, I don't know much about this. I want to do, right. I want to build a diverse team. I want to make sure people feel like they matter and belong and are safe. And so that's who was always in my mind as we were thinking about language and topics and, and the method through which we would build this course as well. How about you?
Yeah, for me, I think I was mostly thinking about the learner who wanted to be an ally, but wasn't comfortable, but didn't feel like they had all the language and the tools, and they were so afraid of messing up that they didn't say anything. And so I realized that a course like this is, if someone is actively homophobic, transphobic, a self-paced e-learning course is probably not going to radically change their thoughts or behavior if someone's not open to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are a lot of people who want to do the right thing, and maybe they feel a little uncomfortable, or they don't know. And I think that we did a really great job of designing this that not only gives a lot of information, but also really touches someone's head and heart, that shares people's stories. And so that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah. And I think another sort of group that we thought of too was the actual community, right? The feeling of being seen by, one, getting organizations to focus on this as an important topic, but also having pieces of their lived experiences, right? None of these groups are monolithic, right? So there are multiple trans experiences, there are multiple LGBTQIA+ experiences, but I agree. I think we did a good job at really helping to tell a piece of the story that I think folks who identify as LGBTQ+ within organizations go, yes, that's it. It's like somebody sees this, right? And doing our part in helping organizations begin the journey to validate and honor that lived experience.
And when you say that, it brings up for me that part of the reason this took so long was because we had so many people edit it, because we were like, okay, within the great diversity of the LGBTQ+ community, we want to make sure we have so many eyes on this, and what might we be missing as a cisgender white woman? Like, what are my blind spots that I may not have seen? And so bringing that in was really important to me, because my queer identity is not the same as somebody else's. And then also bringing in not only people from the LGBT community, but also bringing in straight folks who may be new to this information, and asking, what's resonating, what's not, what questions do you have? And then just sort of editing and editing and editing.
Yes. The amount of edits we went through, because and that's intentionality. right? It's something that, there are many people on this, webinar right now who do this work, whether as an official DEI leader or with this within their, everyday capacity. And intentionality is such a big and important part of the work, because without intention, we make all those mistakes that we could have, avoided, right? Nothing's perfect, but, how do we ensure that we're doing the best that we can, and that we're catching the things that we can catch? Yeah. So training is this interesting thing, right? Oftentimes people use training as, kind of a last resort because something's happened or whatever. When might someone want to consider getting this course for their team?
Yeah. So of course, it's our dream that if an organization has a commitment to building an LGBTQ plus inclusive culture workplace, that I think the dream is that, this is part of the onboarding, that sense that, this is part of our values, it's part of our culture, and that as people are new, that everyone is watching this, just like you're, having sexual harassment training and all sorts of other training to say, this is something that we value. And so, a dream is for that to be an upfront training. But also, if something happens that maybe there are questions, maybe someone comes out, maybe someone has a gender transition and people have questions, and you don't want people asking their awkward questions to that team member, it's a great way to give people a resource so they can have information.
Yeah.
Of course, it's best to do it proactively to avoid HR complaints, but if you get them, if you get information that there's an issue and people are needing training and support, then this can be part of that training and support. And it could be something where an organization says, hey, Pride Month is coming up, and if we want to do something that's not performative, we want to really bring something that's high quality and excellent to our team. And
Yeah.
that's a great way to utilize it.
Yeah, I love the proactiveness, right? I think that's one of the things I always work on in my own practice, is how are we helping people be proactive and not wait until something goes wrong to start focusing on it, but to do that up front. To me, this is a great part of the journey. And, we're going to get to this in another question, but just like, it's not the end all be all, it's a part of a longer journey, that, is necessary for actual change. Yeah.
So, Cornell, what do you think makes this different from other e-courses that are focused on the same topic?
Yeah. I don't know. I've seen some others out there, and for me, again, the ones that I've seen, they're not as engaging. They, don't really, when we were building this, we wanted to keep people sort of like, oh, this is interesting, which is why we added in animation and different things that sort, to keep it engaging. But I also think that I just feel that it was just super intentional, and it involved so many different parts of our community. I remember sitting down and going through the list of the people who we had either had review the content and give us feedback, or the people who we were asking to be a part of the filming piece and sharing their story. Like, who's missing? Whose voice is not here? And, for as a person of color, as a part of the LGBTQ community, I don't often feel that the other trainings out there are as intentional about ensuring that my voice is also added into it. So I think we did a really good job, and I'm sure there are things that we missed too, but I think we did a really good job at capturing the depth and breadth of this community and getting those voices in here. What would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I think one thing again that stands out is, we have not just one trainer, but there's three. There's you and me and Elle, who you showed in that little clip. And so I think that's really helpful. Also, people have different learning styles, and we were really thoughtful about that, in that, we have both sort of giving the data and statistics for people who learn that way. And then we have 16 people sharing parts of their own story. So there's the head and the heart. And then we bring some of these concepts to life through animation. And we had it put together by Adam Golub, who happens to be a documentary filmmaker. So being really intentional that we didn't just end up with something that had great content, but we really worked hard to make it not a super painful training experience as some workplace trainings are.
Right.
And we need to create
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So going in that line, what can people expect from taking our course and what shouldn't they expect?
Well, I think they can expect, so it's about 90 minutes with the post module quizzes. So they can expect that length. And I think we've already touched on a lot of this and what they can expect, which is a great training video that's gonna really help people have both tools. Like there's a whole section on how to be an ally. So it's both information and how you can be in action. But a training is information. It cannot enforce how people implement that information. And so that's where what we hope that then people will utilize other services we provide, which is like having debrief groups or practice sessions. And so I think that it's great. This is a great course, but we're not going to pretend it's going to have an impact beyond what a course is capable of having. And we know that oftentimes teams are going to need support to then implement the learning.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I love, and you and I have talked about this so often, right? That we're not pitching a course that we say this is going to change behavior. No course by itself, I don't care what anybody says, does not change behavior alone, right? It is the follow-up, it is the accountability measures that are put into place around what we expect from the people who are, a part of our employee workforce. And it's also the opportunity to continue to practice. I'm geeking out a bit. I'm thinking about the New World Kirkpatrick model when you're developing learning and development, offerings, and you think about, okay, here's the sort of traditional banking education, if you will. Here's the knowledge. Here's what needs to get done. But then you got to have moments to practice. And so how are we being intentional about helping to create this? So I never want anyone to think that that's what this course is going to do. It's not going to change behavior, but it is a part of a longer journey that we think is really, really critical. And there's about 6 modules. And after each module, there is a quiz. So folks can begin to, thinking through and remembering some of the knowledge, right? So very traditional banking education, but then there has to be the practice. And so we can also work with you to design what that looks like and to keep that going and create opportunities for people to discuss what they've learned in cohorts as well. So if you want to learn more about that, you can get in touch with us as well.
Thank you. What do you think are the biggest issues for LGBTQ+ employees right now?
Yeah. I think, and I alluded to this earlier, it's the full gamut, right? It's, representation. And it's not just me within the organization, but seeing people who are part of my community at the highest levels within the organization as people leaders in the C-suite. It's the experience that I have. It's being able to put a photo of my husband on my desk and not be concerned that people are going to have weird reactions. And we're not just talking about the most egregious forms, right? We're talking about the microaggressions. It's the death by 1,000 cuts, right? It's the little things that people do where they stop talking to you or they do the energy is different, right? The energy shifts. And so, the experience that I have or having to constantly come out, we oftentimes talk about within our community where we come out over and over and over again. The number of times some, older individual said to me, "Oh, I have a daughter who I think you would find so cute." Not in the way you think so, right? We can go shopping. It's not going to go beyond that, right? And so having to actually, my husband wouldn't agree. And so having to constantly come out all the time, it's exhausting. So that piece there and not having the advocates who, can sort of be a part of helping us navigate that. And then I also think from a benefit standpoint, right? For those of us who want to have a family and having the rights benefits that allow us to be able to build our family and healthcare. And so it runs the full gamut.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have anything to add.
Yeah. Okay. What is the cost of not having LGBTQ inclusion efforts?
Yeah, well, I think we know right now we're having a backlash, but political winds change. But I think companies need to be prepared for the workforce of not only the present, but also the future. So when you look at Gen Z, which is like 11 to 26 years old, I believe, according to the Gallup poll last year, The 2% of Gen Z identified as transgender or non-binary, and 19.7% identified as LGBTQ. So that's right, 20%. That's like 1 in 5 hires. So if this is not an issue that a workplace has skilled in, then it's gonna be a problem, if not now, very, very soon. Because one thing about Gen Z is they're not going to put up with what I put up with, right? I, for 5 years, went to this workplace where I didn't feel comfortable all those ways. And what we see and what we know about Gen Z is they're leaving jobs when they don't feel seen, respected, having a, a, a workplace culture of respect and inclusion and belonging has so many benefits that I know some people on this call already know, but it's also about how do we make sure we're preparing for not just the workplace of today, but tomorrow. How about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I 100%, and I think there's just so many different things. There's, and I'm always careful about equating the need for equity and liberation and inclusion and belonging to making money and things that sort, right? And so, this is the right thing to do because it's the right thing to do. Right. But you have people out there who are in a business mindset and that's all they think about. And so I'm gonna break it down, right? I think it's important for them to acknowledge that it's not even just about, the cost of what it takes to hire an individual person, to onboard, to recruit, onboard, and hire an individual. And if they're leaving within 1 to 2 years, you're spending that money over and over and over again because your organization becomes a revolving door. Not to mention what you're missing out on when you don't have the products that are meeting the needs of the unique needs of different identity groups. And so having folks who are a part at the table, sitting at the table in leadership roles, who are helping to make that product better for more people than just a typical sort of group, you're also missing out on, sort of that interaction and that engagement from the community as well. Again, the business case is not the strongest case for me. I think what's really important is that it's the moral case. It's the right thing to do. And having a positive impact on the world, to me, is super critical. So I think it costs us, revenue. It costs us money that we're spending to keep rehiring. And, and I think those things are really important for folks who are always thinking about money, 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 money.
Yeah, well said. Thank you. How do you think companies, how should companies with LGBT employees navigate this unique and difficult political time when LGBTQ plus employees, that their rights are front and center on political agendas?
Yeah, this is what I've been thinking about a lot. Well, me and my therapist have been talking about it a lot, to be quite honest, because, I think for me, it always starts with self. I have to make sure that I am taking care of myself mentally, physically, and emotionally. And whether that is, having my therapist, having my coach, having my community, because these moments really our emotional and mental health take a major hit. And so to me, my first step is always to go, do I have the things in place that I need to take care of myself? Because this is a fight. Right? This is going to be a battle. And then we have to think about what are the things, how can I advocate for myself? How can I begin to develop the courage? Because not everyone is me, right? I am true Aries energy. I will always advocate for myself and I will always push. But I think not everyone has that. And so how do we begin to develop that ability to say, no, actually, I don't like that. That's not cool. And I won't tolerate that. I won't take that, because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people, people always say, oh, these things didn't happen back then. Yeah, because people were willing to take more because out of fear of losing their job. And as you said earlier, Sharon, I think people are realizing, no, actually, I don't have to take this. I don't have to stand for this. I don't have, I don't have to just take it. I have options. And so I think recognizing that and building that community and that self-care regimen now is super, super critical than trying to do it later on.
Yes, the therapist in me is like absolutely 100%. And I think that it's for me it's also looking for the win. Like, okay, what is the team, the leadership, like what are people willing to do? What is the step you can take, and take that step?
Mhm, mhm.
And so I think there's also when people are scared and contracting, and especially in this, election cycle, which I know we're all kind of holding on with and gritting our teeth, that I think it's like, all right, let's keep going to what is possible, and just keep taking one step and just celebrate each win.
Yeah. And I think also, I don't know, I just think there's an opportunity for us to think intersectionally, right? I think when you look at throughout history, we have always left each other behind, right? LGBTQ men left women behind in the LGBTQ movement. Cis people left trans people behind in the movement. And I just think this is an opportunity for us to do something different,
Yeah.
to think about the trans woman of color, right, who is at the intersection of all those marginalized identities, and how do we build for her and ensure that she has what she needs, because right, a rising tide lifts all boats, that I too benefit as a cisgender man of color when the queer trans woman of color also can flourish. And so I just think it's an opportunity for us to also come together and really reflect, how do we want to show up in this moment? What do we want to do differently than we've done in the past to ensure that we all come along, rather than, hey, we'll come back for you, but let's just get this done first. And also honoring those small wins, because this is a marathon. And if we only focus on what's not going well, that eats away at our mental health as well. So it's focusing on both ends. Hey, we got this far, but there's still this far to go as well.
That's right. And we talk about that in course. We talk about the curb cut effect.
Yes, we
And
do.
Ed Roberts, who in the 60s was trying to get around in his wheelchair and couldn't because of the curbs. And so there was this huge win with the American Disabilities Rights Act. And
Yeah.
that impacted not just people with disabilities and in wheelchairs, but it made parents with strollers have an easier time crossing the street, or people on bikes or rolling suitcases, or elders with walkers. That, it's that I think that there's everything that we're doing is also supporting everyone else. And I love what you said about how we can't leave anyone behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we have our last question here. We're recording this. We're going to put this up on LinkedIn and anywhere else that will take the file size. And so I imagine they're going to be, I hope that there will be some leaders who will see this. And so I want to make sure that they have a message to them as well, people leaders who may not be folks who are responsible for DEI or responsible for the employee experience, but just people leaders who are engineers or who are in finance or in sales and marketing. What is your best advice for leaders who want to build and be a part of building an LGBTQ inclusive workplace?
Well, for those who are afraid to start, I would say don't be afraid to be a beginner. And I'll use myself as an example. In my introduction today, I didn't introduce myself with my pronoun. I have done that many times, but like, I'm gonna make mistakes. We're all gonna make mistakes. And I think if we can hold each other with graciousness, if we're trying, and also have that when people give us feedback, to hold that as, wow, someone trusted me enough to let me know that I can do better. And I mean, being able to take that breath and hear people out is, I think, that is such an amazing thing that leaders can do, to build inclusive workplaces for everyone. And also, to be clear, it's a value of your company.
Yeah.
And I think to say that right up front, this is part of the culture that we're committed to building.
Yeah.
And I think that, saying that out loud and then putting your actions in alignment to keep moving things forward one step at a time. It's just, it's like step by step. That's how we're going to keep moving
Yeah.
forward.
I absolutely love that. One of the things that comes up for me is this feeling that it is overwhelming to feel like, I don't know how to fix all of this. I can't fix all of this. And I think we have to remind people that you're not by yourself. We're not expecting you as an individual to fix this big, massive problem, but it's finding what is my locus of control? What is the thing that I can do? My contribution. I was given a keynote address in upstate New York recently, and I was talking about the starfish, the story of the little boy and the older gentleman on the beach and the starfish. And for folks who may not know that story, this older man goes on the beach every single morning to take his walk, and he sees his little boy. Well, first he gets out there and he sees all these starfish on the beach. They had washed up, overnight. And there's a little boy in the distance who every couple of steps bends down and picks up a starfish and throws it into the ocean. And at some point, the older man and the little boy get closer and closer and closer. And the older man says, what are you doing? And he says, well, the little boy says, all the starfish washed up on the ocean and I'm throwing them back into the water because if we don't, they'll die. And the older man says, well, there's thousands of them here. You'll never make a difference. And the little boy smiles at him and bends down and picks up one and throws it in the water and says, but I made a difference for that one. And I always think about, what if we all went out on the beach and picked up a starfish and threw it into the ocean? We would make a massive impact because we collectively did our part, to actually make change. And that's what I hope people begin to think about, which I think is really, really important. Yeah. I see one question from Beatrice in the chat. She says, how do we find out more about the course? Will you share more info? Great question, Beatrice. After this call, you will receive an email that will have more information, ways to get in touch with us. You've also seen our website as well. We'll flash that up again before we leave so that you can reach out too. But there will be an email with a quick survey that you'll get from us as well. Sharon, anything to add there?
Nope.
Okay. So we have some time for some questions. So if you have any questions, feel free. Thank you, Demario. Hi there. Feel free to put them in the Q&A box. At this point, you can also put them in the chat box too. I have that open. But we love to take any questions you may have. While people are thinking about their questions, Sharon, is there anything else you want people to know about this course and the content?
Well, can we put up the slide you have?
Yeah, let's do that.
Should we do that before people jump off?
Yeah.
So we have 2 gifts for you and 2 requests. So the first one is we want to invite you to our next executive forum, which is going to be real awesome. I'm really excited about it. We're going to have legal expert Denise Diskin. She is a lawyer in Washington State, and she is talking about inclusion and the law, about keeping your workplace vibrant and compliant. And with so many legal challenges right now, this is going to be a really juicy and wonderful webinar. So really hoping, mark your calendar, 12 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, May 15th. Also, if you have pressing LGBTQ inclusion issues, and if you want to send us a message, we're happy to set up just 15-minute one-on-one consults with you. Just if you just want to use this as a thinking partner, please feel free to put that, just message the panelists, and we're happy to get back to you. Here is our website there at the bottom. Please check us out, lgbtqelearning.com. And then, Cornell, can you go to the next slide, please? And so we have 2 asks. One is we are conducting insight interviews for an upcoming article on LGBTQ plus workplace inclusion. So we're looking for DEI, HR, and L&D professionals. And they're just really quick 15-minute insight interviews. And so we would, if you are a DEI, HR, L&D professional, would love to chat with you. And please, again, you can just send a private message saying insight, and we will, I'll probably be the one reaching out to set that up. And then again, as Cornell said, we're going to have a quick, it'll be like a 1-minute survey, but would love to get your feedback about this session. It's our first one, and we love any feedback you have for our own learning.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I don't see any questions in the Q&A box, and I don't see any in the chat box. So, it's always good to give time back. But before we close out, Sharon, any final things around the content of it that you want people to know as they think about, is this something they want to think about for their team or for their organization? What should folks know?
Well, I will say on our website, LGBTQ+InclusionInTheWorkplace, we do have a trailer video. So if you want to, we gave a little snippet, but if you want to just check that out, get a little look and feel, we talk a lot on the website about the course and our other services that we provide. And so just want to invite you to check it out and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
I love it. I love it. Well, Sharon, thanks for doing this with me. This was so much fun building this course with you, and I'm looking forward to the discussions that will continue as we meet different people who are looking to bring the course to their teams and their organizations. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Again, expect an email from us with more information and that quick 1-minute survey. Thank you for being here. Have a great rest of your day and your week. Take care of yourself and each other. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.